It's 5:59. It's time to start the forum. And I'll wish you a good evening again. And welcome to the Congressional Candidate Forum for United States Congress District 7. I'm Paula Lee, a member of the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County, and I'll be the moderator. The League of Women Voters, here's our commercial. We're a nonpartisan, nonprofit, all-volunteer organization of women and men. Our mission is to encourage participation in government through education and advocacy. The League does not support, oppose, or evaluate candidates or political parties. However, we do take positions on public policy issues. We're very political in that way. We take positions on ballot measures and legislation, and all of that is based on our thorough studies and consensus process. So if you're interested in helping to make democracy work, you're interested in public policy at the local, state, and national level of government, consider joining us. We have active committees working on voter education and engagement, homelessness and housing, criminal justice, climate change, and ranked choice voting. The questions tonight were solicited in advance from the community. We received over 50 questions, so I know you will understand if your question is not asked. Please know that we have limited time, so try to cover and our goal is to try to cover the issues and the themes that are in the questions, and we want to avoid redundancy. So the candidates tonight for Congressional District 7 in alphabetical order are Doris Matsui, Robbie Morin, Enayat Nazhat, Ralph Nwobi, Mai Vang, and Zachary Wooden. We drew cards for speaking order, and that's why they're seated in this particular order. That's just for, good old fairness. Each candidate is going to make a 1.5-minute opening statement, and then they'll have generally 1.5 minutes for answers. That doesn't seem like long, but you'll find it is. And candidates, if you're really succinct, if you can do it in less than 1.5 minutes, please do go for a minute, because that means we just get more questions. And there are 6 of you. And then they'll make a 1-minute closing statement. The League's timekeeper tonight, you want to keep your eye on this girl right here with those cards. Hold them up, Lexi. Yeah, so everybody can see. Lexi Tesh is a League volunteer, and she's assisted there by our Sac State interns that are League interns. And the timer will let the candidate know when they have 30 seconds left and when to stop. I will be rotating who answers the questions first. So, thanks again so much to the candidates for your public service, for running for office, for being here tonight to answer questions from voters. So we'll begin tonight with an opening statement from Enayat Nazhat.
Is it on?
Yeah, say your name again and I'll hear it.
Enayat Nazhat.
One more time.
Enayat Nazhat.
Thank you.
Awesome.
It's on.
Is it working? Okay, so everyone can hear me?
Yes, speak right in.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for being here. Thank you to Elmhurst Association and all other associations and sponsors for putting up this event together. My name is Enayat Nazhat. I know you all don't know me. I'm a first-generation Afghan-American who immigrated to this country when I was 19 years old. I'm a tech entrepreneur. I'm a former United States military linguist and the only one on this stage who actually deployed 3 tours to Afghanistan, served in uniform and carried a rifle. I'm a nonprofit founder who actually built a nonprofit to fund congenital heart defects for kids in Afghanistan and other nations. And I'm also a cellular molecular biologist by training. Anyone worried about climate change, come talk to me. So I think Sacramento, not just Sacramento, Placerville, Lodi, Galt City, Elk Grove, South Sacramento, other cities that are part of District 7 new geography needs new representation. I know you all are sick and tired of your current representation, and I'm here to represent you. I'm fresh new blood. We need fresh new blood in Congress, and I'm your man. Come talk to me after this event. I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to fight for every single family, and not just families, also single individuals in this district, because they have been forgotten for a very, very long time. Thank you.
Okay, that's all the clapping you can do till the end. So it's just because of the time, just as Maggie said. Okay, so our next speaker is Doris Matsui.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters and all of you for being here tonight. I'm Doris Matsui. You know who I am. But I want to tell you something about myself. A lot of what I do today is worrying about people. I get up every morning worried about families who are scared, about people who are worried about maybe they're not going to be able to see their children at night. This is what it's all about. I serve. I stand up for people. And when they did this egregious thing, killing people, and also when they detained children, I said, hell no, we can't do that. I stand up for my people. I stand up for my constituents all the time, whether it's billions in healthcare and billions and for flood protection, making sure that we have affordable prescription drugs, and also at this moment in time too, what we're trying to do right now is ensure that we are a country that speaks for everyone. I feel at this moment, when we think about what's going on with this president, we all need to stand up and we all need to understand that it's all of us together. And that's what I stand for. I've always delivered for all of you, and I tend to continue to deliver for all of you. That's what I do. I believe in service. I believe in all of you. And this war that he is precipitating now is absolutely reckless. And let me tell you about the fact that what's happening with immigration and everything else, and I will get back to that later because I have a stop signal here. So anyway, you'll hear from me later. Thank you.
Please, 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 no more clapping, please, please. We'll have to throw you out or something like that. Zachariah Wooden.
Hello, everybody. My name is Zachariah Wooden. I think I'm the only candidate up here who does not live in the Sacramento area. So I hail from San Joaquin County, the Woodbridge area that is recently districted into District 7. But I'm not running to just represent San Joaquin County. I'm running to represent Sacramento County and El Dorado County as well. As you may notice, I am the youngest candidate on stage. That may be apparent. And I want to start off with a story, right? This year we're celebrating the 250th foundation of the United States of America, right? And 13 years later, those same founders, many of them, framed the Constitution dictating essentially the terms of being a representative in Congress, in the House of Representatives. The age limit for that is 25, right? In recent history, previous generations have had the benefit of at least having a positive hope for the future of the country. I hail from the first generation that does not have that majority. And so I'm not running to represent not only my generation, but every generation, because I do believe that society is a partnership between those who passed, those who are living, and those who are yet unborn. We have to take all wisdom and all temperance in order to forge a bold future that returns to the dynamism that people can be proud of what they're building in the United States. And I am sure that that can apply to District 7, not just in San Joaquin County, again, but Sacramento County and El Dorado County as well, because we're running to represent all of these communities together. Thank you.
And Ralph Nwobi.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming here. Thank you for having me. My name is Ralph Nwobi. And as you've all heard from Mr. Wooden, he's also another person that's running for as a Republican candidate for the seat, CD7. He mentioned his age, and he's in his 20s. And the incumbent that's also here today is 81. So age is the big elephant in the room today. And we just have to address that head on. In the words of Ronald Reagan when he was running with against Walter Mondale, he said, and I'll paraphrase, "I will not exploit the youth and inexperience of my political opponent for my own political advantage." So I'm not going to do that. Of course, the incumbent is going to do that. But what I'm asking for here is your support, because I believe in public service as a virtue and as a vehicle to better the lives of everybody here in District 7. I'm a local attorney here. I've worked as a substitute teacher before becoming an attorney. I've worked as a public defender, district attorney. I'm in private practice now. I pledge to go to Congress and fight for every CD7 resident to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Mai Vang?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mai Vang, and I am the proud daughter of Hmong refugee. I am an educator and a Sacramento City Council member. Tonight, you're going to hear two visions for the future. One by an established Democrat that has created the conditions for what we have today, and the other, a vision for new leadership. Right now, there are so many working families that are struggling to get by. Our refugee and immigrant families are living in fear, and we are living under an authoritarian administration, and we need bold and courageous leaders that could meet this moment. I am running for Congress because I understand the day-to-day struggles of our working families. My husband and I struggle to pay our house bills, to fill up our gas tank, to cover groceries. Doris Matsui is a multi-millionaire married to a billionaire, and she doesn't understand the day-to-day struggles of our working families. Established politicians, both Democrats and Republicans, bought by corporate PAC, created the conditions for what we have today. I support Medicare for all. Doris Matsui does not, because she takes money from Big Pharma and health insurance company. I have called what is happening in Gaza a genocide. Doris Matsui has not, because she continues to vote for military funding for Israel and is backed by AIPAC. I have unapologetically called for the abolishment of ICE. Doris Matsui has not, and consistently over 20 years have increased the ICE budget and directly profits from detention centers that detain babies, women, and children. We need bold and courageous leaders in this moment. I have over 20 decades of community organizing, policy, and advocacy experience. I have secured millions for our youth impacted by poverty, violence, and trauma, and I want to take that same fight, that same heart and hustle to the halls of Congress. I hope to earn your vote.
I am absolutely serious. How many questions do you want to get to? We only have like 8, so please, please, no more clapping. And Robbie Morin.
All right, everybody. I want to start by saying thank you all for coming out here tonight. Thank you to the Neighborhood Association and the League of Women Voters for having us. My name is Robbie Morin. I'm 31 years old and a lifelong Sacramentan. I was born here, raised here, and I even worked here. In fact, I worked in this very building with Access Sacramento, the wonderful people who are filming us tonight. And I say that for 2 reasons. One is a reminder that I once worked for you, worked with you, the people who were on the camera, and I think my best angle is probably stage left. After I worked for Access Sacramento, I went on to do the thing I'm most proud of in my life. I started a small business. I currently own and operate a small manufacturing company on the north side of town. It's an absolute dream. It's amazing people that come together every day to try to build something for themselves, something that we can all be proud of. And I'm so grateful for every day that I get to show up and work with those folks. But we are all here today because we face some real issues together. We have an economy that's deteriorating. We have a rogue man in the White House who seems to want to benefit the rich and powerful over the average American. And the thing that's most important to me, we have a housing crisis that is sapping our youth of their belief in the American dream. These are real problems, but they can be solved with bold new visions. And I'm here today to ask for your vote. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, candidates. Thank you, audience. First question is going to be directed to, I'll get your name by the end of the night. Enayat Nazhat. Okay. And this is a question, of course, for all of you. But we'll go down the line first, and then we'll begin the next question with Doris and rotate. The United States has the most expensive healthcare system in the world. We spend 18% of GDP in 2003 on healthcare, and the worst healthcare outcomes, we have those too when compared with other developed countries. We've tried the Affordable Care Act. However, H.R. 3069, the Medicare for All Act of 2025, proposes a national single-payer health insurance program covering all residents. Do you support this bill? Why or why not?
Here's a fact. Medicare for all is
Wait a minute.
Is it good? No?
Yeah.
Medicare for all is going to cost us $30 to $40 trillion. The progressive machine in Congress has pushed it for a very long time, and every single time it has failed. That tells us something. I don't think Medicare for all is going to ever pass until we have a lot of progressive in Congress, and that's not going to happen in the near future. Let's be honest about it. What I'm about is expanding current Medicare and negotiating drug prices for all drugs. That's what I'm all about. We want to make sure that we expand the Medicare, negotiate drug prices, and in addition to that, we need to make sure we have a lot of mental health facilities, because let's be honest, more than 40% of Gen Z in this country are suffering from mental health issues, depression, social media, and also anxiety that they're having with the AI, because we're living in the age of AI. So we need to establish mental health centers, we need to fund that, and we need to expand Medicare, negotiate drug prices. And we can do that pretty easily. Thank you.
I believe that healthcare is a right. It's not a privilege. I think all of us believe that. And I also believe in making sure that everyone has healthcare, national healthcare. And I think that that is possible. And there's really the way we get there. I'm not averse to Medicare for all, but there are other pathways there too. And I think we have to examine them. But we really need to understand that we have to have national health care for everyone. That is my goal. And right now, I'm working hard to make sure the health care we have today is not taken away from us. So that's what it's all about, making sure. We've already started lowering prescription drugs and expanding health care. But now we're fighting this administration who keeps cutting it. We are working every step of the way in order to make sure that we expand our health care. I'm there. I love national health care. We are going to get there, because the way we're going to get there is all about what we're talking about today. Thank you.
No. I do not support single payer for all for very simple reasons. I think that the cost is not worth the actual outcome. And the outcome can be improved by reducing the cost in the first place. That can't be done through a single payer healthcare system. One of my experiences as a student and as working with student advocacy is seeing the pathways for improving access to healthcare through greater graduation and greater rates of students going through medical programs here in California, right? And to an extent, the federal level does have an input on that. I know I am a student, right? I am a student. I currently attend Sacramento State University, or CSU Sacramento, as you may know. And there's plenty of legislation on the state side about improving access pathways for going through medical programs and expanding that because because that's a state thing, right? But federally, specifically, I want to improve the output of Americans graduating through these programs so that they can provide access to areas that aren't necessarily or underserved, right? I come from San Joaquin County. San Joaquin County is a particularly underserved area, and that's because there's not a lot of people who are going through these programs and working in areas such as my own. And that is an issue that affects all different communities within District 7, including El Dorado, including Sacramento, and including San Joaquin. And I think that improving costs, reducing those costs, is the best way to do that. I don't think single payer is. Thank you.
Yes, I don't support the bill because it doesn't really address the problem holistically. So when we talk about health care, we can't have health care for all. I contend that we should have health care for all citizens and for all legal immigrants in this country, which also kind of ties into immigration issue. Legal immigration is what's needed in this country, not illegal immigration. Also, going back to healthcare, it seems like most of the times we spend the most money in this country on healthcare, but still the outcomes are not as good as it should be. So that means that something is wrong. And the incumbent has been part of the system, and she has not been of any help in trying to fix the problem. Our healthcare needs an overhaul from the basics, even from the edification of the citizens on how to take better care of their health first, before we start resorting to pills and medication that the big pharma loves. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Healthcare is a human right, and I do support Medicare for all. We are one of the richest countries on planet Earth, and yet we can't even provide health care for so many of our residents across our country. Other countries have universal health care. We do not. And a big part of that is because we operate in a capitalist society where insurance companies profit off of the pain and suffering of our loved ones. So I am a strong supporter of Medicare for all. Health care is a human right, and it's so important that we have health care for all, that we have Medicare for all, because we know that one of the top 3 reasons why so many of our family actually file bankruptcy is because of medical debt. I know people may say, hey, Mai, you know, Medicare for all is really expensive. How are we going to pay for it? We're paying for it now. We are paying for it now. We have one of the most expensive healthcare systems with the worst outcomes compared to other countries. And so we are done with these incremental reforms. We need to have a bold vision, and we need to make sure that we pass Medicare for all.
I absolutely support single-payer healthcare and having healthcare for all. I go back to the conversations that I have with people in the district and my friends, small business owners. I think oftentimes you hear maybe people on the other side of the aisle or business owners talk about, you know, we shouldn't have socialism or anything like that. We need a profit motive. And I'm here to tell you that I'm a small business owner and I work every day under a profit motive, and I cannot fathom a single reason why we want a profit motive in our healthcare. When I think about the times when, you know, you're sitting in the doctor's office and they're prescribing you a medicine, do we really want a profit motive in that moment? No, I want my doctor to prescribe me the best thing I need to ensure that I'm healthy. Not to wonder if there's ulterior motives or they getting a payoff or a cut or something like that. There's strong reasons to go towards single-payer healthcare that's economic, right? I think about, you know, if you get injured and have to call an ambulance, you don't want to wonder if that ambulance is going to bankrupt you and charge you $15,000. We are the richest country on earth, and we should be able to provide for our citizens a base level of health care that makes sure that we can take care of each other. And there's also a side thing I throw out, being a small business owner. I think that having healthcare companies sponsor healthcare systems chain employees to their workplace, and it stifles innovation, and it benefits large corporations at the pain and suffering of small business owners who would love to steal that talent, but they feel chained to the desk of, like, you know, a large corporation.
Doris Matsui. Doris Matsui. Congress seems to have lost its strength in providing constitutional checks and balances on the executive branch of government. Hearings don't appear to be enough, subpoenas are ignored, and judicial decisions are disobeyed. How can Congress ensure our federal budget is spent and federal departments are funded as directed by Congress? Well, I agree with you there. Honestly, we have a government right now that doesn't work because it's invested in one power. That's all. It's supposed to be the Congress, the administration, and the courts. But the administration, the White House, has taken over. We need to change this by changing the Congress. We need to have a balance of power here. And that's really why we need to make sure that we take back the House of Representatives. It is critical for what we're going to do, because then we'll have one power there, which is a huge power, because the House of Representatives has subpoena power, it's majority, and when majority rules, we can get the things done. That's what this is all about. We need to look forward with that. Now, the courts have been trying very hard, and they're working, but they're slow. We know that. We try to bring people with subpoenas. That helps to a certain degree, but we need to have a balance of power
We need to get Congress back, and that's what it's all about. Thank you.
Congress has abrogated its duty to be able to actually pursue the powers that it needs to constitutionally, right? This is a long-standing issue. This is not new. This is not recent. It didn't start in 2016. It didn't start in 2024. Congress is just not acting. And this is part of the issue of why people don't trust or believe in Congress, is because it isn't pursuing what it has been designated or delegated to do. It is actually one of the more powerful institutions in between the three branches, right? It has the power of the purse, it can subpoena, and so on and so forth. But the fact that it's developed a system that it delegates duties to in the executive branch, well, the reason the executive branch is able to do and is working to do many of the things currently is because Congress has not been stepping in at all over the past few decades, even longer, right? As a candidate for Congress, I do believe that Congress does have certain powers that are delegated to it, and I do believe that those powers should be pursued to the fullest extent, because we need a vigorous Congress in order to pursue a vigorous country. Thank you very much.
Here's a fact.
Wait a minute. It's your turn. Yeah.
Sorry. All right. Thank you. So I agree with Doris Matsui. She just said that change is needed in Congress. I totally agree. The problem is that she's talking about minimal change. I believe that change is actually needed, especially in CD7, throughout Congress, so that we can have fresh blood, new people in Congress that can actually understand that there are co-equal branches with the executive branch. And in that way, they can more effectively demand accountability from the executive branch or any other branch of the government for that matter. So yes, change is needed. The time for change is now. That's why I'm asking for your support. I am the man for the job. I've worked as a prosecutor. I've worked as a public defender. I'm the man that can be able to advocate for common sense values for CD7 and for everybody in California. That's what I promise to do. I can land this plane.
Thank you for your question. Absolutely, we got to win back the House so that we could do subpoena and oversight. But something I will share with all of you is that Democrats have had power over the House before, right? And in this moment, what we actually need is more bold, courageous Democrats. I share this because corporate Democrats have actually created the conditions for what we have today. There's a reason why Trump isn't in office. We lost to him twice. It's because the Democratic Party is completely out of touch with working families. And so what we have to do is win back the House, absolutely. But we got to send fighters in there that's not going to fold and cave to the same system that got us here in the first place. We need folks in there that are ready to disrupt and actually transform the system to work for working families. And that's what we need in this moment.
All right, so I believe the question is, how do we check the current administration? And I think the answer is pretty clear. Congress is supposed to be a co-equal branch, but doesn't exist as such. And we can all sit up here and give some vague answers of what needs to be done. But the truth is, we have to win as Democrats, because the Republicans very clearly are not going to do it for themselves, nor, I guess, necessarily should they. They want to support the president. But Democrats can and Democrats should. But we have options up on the stage. We have one candidate up on stage who oversaw the last 20 years of watching Congress fade into the background of the executive branch. And so I agree with Mai. We need to have fighters, new, fresh people in Congress with bold ideas that are willing to stand up for what Congress and America represents and actually take the fight to the president.
Get the mic.
Okay, awesome. I think Congress is neutered by President Trump. The word neutered. Remember that. Congress is neutered by President Trump because we have representation in Congress that do not really represent you. When President Trump sees that your representative does not show up for town halls, when President Trump sees that your representative takes millions of AIPAC funding, when President Trump sees that your representative works on a bill that called Wales Act, something like that, instead of focusing on your rent, instead of making sure to bring down inflation, instead of making sure to break corporate monopolies to bring your cost of groceries down, President Trump is saying like, you know what, I can do whatever the fuck I want to do. That's what he's going to say. So when he sees that your representative doesn't represent you, he's going to do whatever he wants to do. Congress needs to authorize a war. That's congressional authorization is needed for a president to send the United States military to a foreign nation. When President Trump does something like this, he sees that no one is going to stand up to him in Congress because they're not going to stand up for their people in their own district. So he does whatever he wants to do. And, you know, that's what's happening right now. Thank you.
Okay, Zachariah. Given this administration has violated civil rights and liberties for our immigrant communities, what changes, if any, do you believe are necessary to ensure immigration enforcement practices are both lawful and accountable to the communities they impact?
Thank you for the question. To be clear, since the beginning of this administration, partnerships with local law enforcement agencies have increased substantially since the beginning of this administration in 2024, or the second term of this administration in 2024. That is a safe avenue for enforcing the current policy, which is secure borders, which was voted for in 2024. I believe that, you know, that avenue, that partnership, to begin with, avoiding that partnership entirely does create dangerous situations. It can create dangerous situations. And those situations can escalate into worse situations, right? It's an escalating scale. I do believe that we, or the administration, partnering with local law enforcement is key to safe immigration enforcement, which I do believe is a priority, not just for the country, but in general. It was what was voted for in 2024. But ultimately, again, the question is whether or not, or what can be done in order to secure or make these immigration enforcement actions safer. I do believe that partnering with local law enforcement is the key to that. Thank you.
Yes, I have worked in law enforcement before, and I have a bit some experience in how the immigration laws should be enforced. Right now, ICE is doing what it needed to do, because remember, this was an emergency. This was actually an emergency that was created by the Biden administration. Now, I know. No. I'm going to reclaim my time. Okay, but what happened here is that the border was really like a lot of people were pouring in. As I said, this country is a country of immigrants, but we prefer, I know deep down we prefer legal immigration. So now that ICE has done what it needed to do to stop the bleeding, of course, it would make sense that there are lessons learned, and they would actually have to adapt more to, and work in partnership with local law enforcement to effectively do the immigration process without actually violating constitutional rights of people that are being deported.
As I shared with you all earlier, I have taken a position on abolishing ICE. You cannot reform an agency that has killed U.S. citizen, that has separated our families and loved ones, that discriminates based on your language, where you work, the color of your skin. This is a secret police force for Trump himself. And so we need to abolish ICE. ICE did not exist before 2003, and immigration was under INS. And so we can exist without ICE. As a daughter of a refugee and a wife that's married to a son of a Mexican immigrant, this fight is incredibly personal for me because I have family and loved ones that wake up every morning afraid if they're going to be separated from their loved ones. Last month, I just accompanied my uncle for his annual hearing, and we were just praying and hoping that ICE agents wouldn't show up to take him. Luckily, they didn't show up, and he's going to come back in 3 months. But this is what immigrants and refugees are living day to day. The other piece I will share with you is that, this is actually not about enforcement. This is actually about terrorizing Black and brown immigrant and refugee communities. This is also about making a profit for these detention centers, which Doris Matsui actually profits directly from. This is about these companies that are making money off of detention. In the United States, we have babies in detention center. Like, where is our morality? We should all be organizing to close the detention center. This is America, and this is not who we are, and so we need to abolish ICE.
Okay, sticking to some facts here. If I were elected to If I was elected to Congress, some of the laws that I would change, starting to force judicial warrants, right? Them using administrative warrants, that's basically just them signing their own checks and saying they can go into anyone's home that they wish. I also think, looking at the economic impact, we're funding ICE at a level that's astronomical. I just looked it up before we came on stage today. They have more money than the Canadian military. There's some nice folks up there, but they do have a military, and we're currently funding a secret police force more than we are the Canadian military. And I do want to say, those are the laws I changed, but then there's where my heart's at, right? And I do think we've lost our soul of what we are as Americans, right? I'll toss over to the Republicans on stage. There was a Ronald Reagan quote, right, where he says, you can move to France, but you can't become a Frenchman. You can move to Japan, but you can't become Japanese. But if you come to America and you work hard and you believe what we believe, you too can become American. And our policies aren't living up to that height, that moral that we should all stand for. And if elected to Congress, that's where I would try to bring us back to.
I think I'm the only immigrant probably on this table. I came here legally. I came on a special immigrant visa because I served for the United States military in Afghanistan. And I immediately got a green card after 2 weeks. So I can speak well about what's going on with immigrant communities here in the United States. Abolishing ICE is not the right answer. Reforming the ICE is. Hear me out on this. What's happening right now, the border is secure. Let's give President Trump credit for securing the border. He secured the border so no illegal immigrants can enter this country. What's happening right now, most of the money goes to deportation flights, hiring ICE agents and stuff like that. What should happen is allocate 30% of that money on deportation of illegal aliens that are criminals to be picked up from the streets, because there are fathers in Placerville and Lodi who want safe communities. District 7 is not just Sacramento, it's Placerville, Lodi, Elk Grove, other areas as well. Those fathers are concerned. In addition to that, the people who are here, who are waiting for their due process, they have asylum claims, they have refugee status, permanent residence, U.S. citizens, they should not be deported. If I'm elected in Congress and ICE deports a U.S. citizen, shoots a U.S. citizen, deports someone who has asylum pending claim, I'm going to kick their ass. And President Trump is going to listen to me because he respects the military. He's going to see that someone who trained the United States Navy SEALs, he's going to respect me. I can guarantee that to you.
Thank you for that question. It's very complicated, but I've been doing oversight at the mosque building for 5 times, standing with Afghan community, with NorCal Resist, and with other folks here, that I understand what is going on is bad. It is really bad. So we're always fighting this. I've been on the front lines. Now, I feel, and I will not fund ICE anymore. I voted against funding ICE. We are fighting that fight right now. We feel that ICE has to be reformed or else we're not going to fund it. That's where the Democrats stand. We've seen what happened. We've seen families being torn apart. We've seen what happened when this ICE has become a military operation. We can't have that in this country. I won't have that. I don't think any of you want that too. But right now, what our power is, we as Democrats are not going to fund ICE. That's what we're going to do. We have some reforms, but unless they have those reforms in place, we won't even consider. So that's where my position is. ICE is bad. ICE is wrong. They have to be reformed. And I will not vote for them until they reform.
Ralph Nwobi, how can Congress reassert its war powers authority and hold the executive branch accountable for unauthorized military engagement and violation of international law.
Congress can do that if it actually begins to do its work, the work that it's supposed to do, which is oversight and demand that the executive branch actually come and make the case for the American people and for Congress on why, why a war should be fought, the reason why our young men and women may be put in harm's way, and all that. But if it's not demanded because we have a sterile Congress, then it may not necessarily be the fault of the president, because the president is executing, as the head of the executive branch is doing his part. Now Congress is not doing its part. And Doris Matsui has been in Congress now for more than 20 years. I actually ran for this position in 2018. She was there when it was CD6. Now it's CD7. I'm running and she's still in the position. It's time for change to elect congressional members that can actually hold any branch accountable and reassert its war powers to the executive branch. Change is needed urgently.
So let me just first say this, that working families do not want war. America do not want war, and we want our dollars invested here on education, on housing, and healthcare. And it's hard to hold the president accountable when so many congressional reps actually trade stocks and is making a profit from war. So we also need to call out that part as well. Doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican, if you're trading stocks and you're directly profiting from war, if you take money from manufacturer companies, this is the reason why we can't have any accountability in the House. As a daughter of Hmong refugees, I understand the generational trauma of war, families who are displaced, generations that have been killed and wiped out. I have 2 baby brothers that serve in the military, and I don't want to be sending my brothers to an illegal war that Trump is pulling us in. No more wars, and we have to do everything we can to stop Trump.
The Iran war is costing us almost $1 billion a day. It's like $891 million, something like that. If you do the math, that's about 3,500 homes that we could build here in America every single day. And so, once, like I've said again and again, where we spend our money is a statement of our values. And I don't think that any one of us want to be spending our hard-earned money sending bombs to foreign lands for wars that we don't care for. Instead, what we need to do is be spending the money back here at home to support our citizens.
War is bad. I know that because I was there. I was there because one of my best friends from Tactical Operations Center, he was a Marine sergeant, worked with me in intelligence in Afghanistan. There was a suicide attack in our base. He got blown up into pieces. His fiancée back here got his coffin with a draped flag, US flag. I was there, I picked up pieces of his body and his uniform, Marine uniform that he was wearing because we worked together. War is terrible, but let's be honest about it. MAGA didn't want this war. Trump didn't want this war. Netanyahu pushed us into this war. He has been pushing us into illegal wars since 2000 or 1999. He pushed us into war with Iraq. There were no chemical weapons. He pushed us into a war with Lebanon. There was nothing there. Gaddafi got eliminated. He got us involved in Syria. Now he got us involved in Iran. And it's terrible. It's terrible and it's horrible. It's devastating. It's kind of weird, though, that Representative Matsui is worried about what's happening with Congress and congressional war powers, but he's not worried about children that did not see their fathers and mothers in Gaza when she sent billions of dollars of aid to Israel, to IDF, the largest terrorist group on the planet Earth, to kill those children and those parents there. Thank you.
I have an announcement. It's the league way not to use people's names. I know when we have an incumbent, everyone's running against the incumbent. So that's why they're using that name. But we would appreciate it, candidates, if you would just say my opponent. It would be preferable.
Thank you for that question. I am totally opposed to Trump's illegal war. This is something that he brought on himself. This is part of what he does all the time. And I'm going to say this, all of the money that is spent on that war, we think about all the people in this country who are suffering, that need that type of help. And I'll say this also, I voted, for every war resolution against this war, and I will continue to do that. But there's another way too. When it comes to us to want money for this war, it's a hell no.
This is an issue that's dear to me. Specifically, I come from a military family. My father served in the Army during the Iraq War. Now, the question specifically is about congressional oversight, right? And I mentioned this earlier in my earlier answer to a previous question, is that Congress has kind of withdrawn its ability or delegated its ability, both and or, in order to prosecute military action. This has been a trend ongoing for a long, long time now, right? I believe that if Congress truly wants to make the case, it has to assert its authority, and it's not doing so right now. And that is really the question. The president is the commander-in-chief, right? They can take military action because ultimately the executive is not constrained specifically, at least in the sense that they can command the military. They may have to take emergency action, right? At the beginning of the United States of America, the Shays Rebellion, right? That's emergency military action that had to be taken at the behest of the executive. But if Congress wants to commit oversight over the executive administration's deployment of military forces or how it executes actions in a military manner, they need to actually have the drive to do so, and right now Congress doesn't. So that's really the difference, is whether or not there's going to be a congressional representative here that will be willing to use that oversight and whether they can get Congress on board. And I think that drive is important to do so. Thank you.
Okay, this is the question for Mai Vang. Between October 2023 and October 2025, Israel received $21.7 billion in U.S. military aid. In light of the Leahy Law, which prohibits U.S. assistance to foreign militaries when there's credible information they have committed gross violations of human rights, do you think the United States funding of the Israeli military should continue? Should it change? Why or why not?
The answer is no. The answer is no, because what is happening in Gaza is a genocide. And we have to call it out for what it is. Our opponent, my opponent, has continued to fund military funding for Israel that has continued to commit a genocide. She's also funded by AIPAC, and we have big lobby influence on U.S. democracy. And the other piece I will share with all of you is that we are working with the war criminal. Netanyahu, we are aiding in his genocide, in his war, and we can't be sending any more U.S. tax dollars in that direction. And the Congresswoman has not yet called this a genocide. Thousands of babies and children have died because of this war, and we continue to send military funding to Israel. A big part of that is the influence on U.S. democracy. It is because of AIPAC. It is because so many politicians are brought. And that's the reason why I don't take any corporate PAC money. I don't take any AIPAC money. And we need to be able to call it out for what it is. Israel is committing a genocide, and we should not be aiding in that genocide.
All right. I agree. What Israel is doing over in Gaza is a genocide, and we don't have to fund it. I know we've been funding it for a very, very long time, but we can make different choices each and every day. And it starts with our U.S. Congress and with the leaders that we elect. We don't have to fund them offensively, certainly. and we don't have to fund them defensively. Instead, what we can do is subject them to what we believe is right and wrong in our morals. And if they would like to subscribe to what we believe, then we can certainly open up funding. But in regards to writing them blank checks and allowing them to do whatever they wish, no, I absolutely would not support that. And I think that, we get wrapped up into these conversations a lot, the Gaza question, the Israel question. And I think that the Trump administration and certainly other political leaders throughout the years have said different ways of weaseling around what we're doing with Israel. But I think it's incredibly clear, if you look over the decades of what Israel has been doing, that they have an intent problem. They can call it whatever they want, but every year they make steps in the wrong direction trying to eliminate the Palestinians. And it's time that we stand up and say no.
First of all, let me start by saying I am glad that my opponent finally agrees with me on this stage and calls Netanyahu a war criminal, because I didn't see anywhere on her website calling Netanyahu a war criminal at any point. This is what I think. Once again, Israel is the state sponsor of terrorism, and IDF is the largest terrorist organization sponsored by Israel. We don't owe that country anything. What do we owe them? Nothing. We shouldn't send them any arms. We shouldn't sell them any arms. We shouldn't send them any money at all. Not a single tax dollar of your paychecks should go to Israel. We also should not fund their education. Your kids are going to college. They're getting loans. They're getting financial aid. Why are Israelis in Israel getting free education? Why are they getting free healthcare that we don't? They're the sixth happiest nation, and we are probably almost the last one. What Netanyahu is doing in Israel caused Jews harm across the globe. There are attacks on synagogues in Canada. There are attacks on synagogues in Europe. There are attacks on synagogues in the United States. Innocent Jews are suffering the consequences of what Zionism is doing to them. I just met the other day a very nice Jew man. I can sit down with a Jew from Sacramento and have a conversation with him for an hour and a half, and he will vote for me because he understands me, even though I'm a Muslim immigrant who came to this country. I think we share a lot. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have called Netanyahu a war criminal. What he's done to kill thousands of innocent civilians, cause destruction to families, humanitarian crisis, I will not send any offensive dollars. I mean, he doesn't deserve it, not with this devastation. I have to say this, though. Netanyahu does not represent the Israeli people. Just like Donald Trump doesn't represent the American people. We have to find a way out. Netanyahu has to be a part of this. I still believe in a two-state solution. That is the only path forward for any kind of peace. Thank you.
So as a young person, obviously this is a critical issue, not just for my generation, but for several generations before me, right? I think that the relationship is being called into question both sides. Israel has mentioned that they're looking into decommitting from American arms suppliers. And I think that the biggest question for people my age, and I think for Americans generally, is how can we recommit the dollars that are being sent to Israel to benefit the United States of America? That should be the utmost priority. Those dollars come from taxpayer money, U.S. taxpayer money, and they should be reinvested into the United States of America. I do truly believe that. I think that that honestly is the best foot forward for if you want to benefit American citizens and you're already collecting the revenue from taxes, those taxes should be going to American citizens as well. That is my stance there. Thank you.
So I'm fiscally conservative, and I strongly believe that just as we aid some of our other allies, Israel is one of our main allies. We can aid Israel in its military situation right now within reason. We cannot just give Israel a blank check. And that's what I'm trying to talk about in this election. Right now, my counterparts in the Democratic side and even my counterpart here, they talk about these things. Congress is not a place where you have to, it's not where you do on-the-job training. Also, the Congress woman that's been there before, I've never seen her or heard her actually oppose in an oversight committee the funding that is happening. So let's just understand that we have to have a revolution here, a revolution of common sense. Fund our allies within reason. Make them come and explain why we are spending precious U.S. tax dollars.
I think I started with the question.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Robbie Morin. We are concerned that Sacramento region continues to face high risk for floods. What specific federal actions are needed to protect the region, and how would you secure the necessary resources? And by the way, before you start, I have been told that we have almost 200 watching on live stream and 300 in the room. Go ahead.
I struggle with the question. I thought in the history books when I was growing up, Matsui funded the levees 15 years ago. Flood protection is important. It's something that can cause insurance issues for many houses in the region, and working with the Army Corps of Engineers, ensuring that Sacramento has good flood protection and we continue to have federal support for places that need it is incredibly important. And if elected to Congress, I would continue to fight to make sure that Sacramento region is the top bill when flood protection money is available. Sacramento is, I think, one of the largest floodplains in the United States. It's a critically important issue.
Awesome. Yeah, I think flood protection's definitely very, very important. But not only flood protections. Let's just take a look at a fact. District 7 has expanded. Lodi is part of District 7. There are farmers, many farmers in Lodi that are looking forward for representation about water rights. It's really, really important for farmers in Lodi. Also, people in Placerville that have been run out of being denied insurance, home insurance, $20,000 a year, something like that, that insurance companies are denying it. So if I do get elected to Congress, not only will I work to make sure we secure flood funding for Sacramento and other areas of District 7, but also making sure that people in Placerville, insurance companies do not deny them coverage. Also making sure that water rights for people in Lodi is important. For insurance for Placerville, people in Placerville is very important because District 7, once again, is just not Sacramento. It's not just downtown Sacramento. It's just not the progressive base here in Sacramento. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. I've been involved in flood protection for a long time, but I know it's something that you have to work out and continue to work at, and it takes collaboration with the federal, state, and local, and the communities. I worked on it a long time to understand that flood protection is something that never goes away. I mean, we built a big spillway at Folsom Dam and strengthening the levees and doing all the work, almost complete in the Thomas, and up and down the American and the Sacramento rivers, and now in West Sacramento. But our conditions always change. We're gonna have an atmosphere river. And so we are thinking about that already and looking at the bypasses and the weirs and how we do this together. And in this new district now, I've been talking to the people in El Dorado Hills and Lodi and certainly the south part of Sacramento, because that type of flood protection is different. It's not the hard the engineered levees or dams, it's weirs. And it's letting the natural water flow and making sure it goes in the right way. Flood protection is a forever thing. It's never finished. And I'll continue working on it. Thank you.
Ultimately, coming from San Joaquin County, especially the new part that's been districted into District 7, I understand that flooding is an incredibly important part of this district. Understanding how to combat that is critical, not just agriculture, but as well as Sacramento. And it is also one of the most federally involved water areas in the nation, simply because of the environment. I don't think that, I think that investing is incredibly important. We need to modernize our water infrastructure and continue to make those investments, because that's critical not just for combating flooding, but also for our agriculture that is in District 7, and it's also for the growth of cities. The counties in District 7 are some of the fastest growing counties in California right now. And water access is going to be incredibly important. Right, this has been a relatively dry March. We just had recent rains, past couple days. But that's important to know, because that means that the snowpack in the Sierras is melting early. And that's not really, that's an issue that we're gonna have to deal with come later this year. Investing in increased capacity for water reservoirs as well, federally, is also incredibly important in conjunction with, not separate from, flood protection. Thank you.
So flood protection is a perennial need. It's a perennial problem. It's something that will keep on occurring. So the best way to deal with it is at least to make it common, like to be able to disseminate the information that will help to prevent it, preemptively, to prevent it. And then in the situations where it cannot be prevented, how do we ensure that the affected places, the people in the affected places recover? So they need to be helped as fast as possible in their recovery efforts. Families, farmers, just places that are affected. And in Congress, if I'm elected as a congressman for CD7, I will fight vigorously and advocate for policies that will ensure that if there is any kind of flooding in any area in CD7, we will be the first district to get the required funding to help in alleviating the problem and help in the recovery of families that were affected.
Our opponent has been in office for 20 years, and Sacramento has actually become one of the worst floodplains in the United States. And we do need to keep building protection for our levees, but what we also need is insurance protection for flood, for fires. We need that right now for our families. As Congresswoman, I will continue to fight for more resources for infrastructure and to have a stronger protection for our levees, but we also have to talk about how being in a flood zone plain actually costs insurance to go up for so many of our working families. And so we also have to make sure that we build protections for our homeowners and our renters as well that's in the flood zone.
He started it. I started. Oh, okay. Next question. Wow, it's going faster than I thought. But still, in order to get through the questions, Lexi, could you go to 1 minute? If you guys could do these answers in 1 minute, it would be helpful. If you absolutely need more time, give me a heads up. This one. Oak Park and many other neighborhoods in our region sit near industrial corridors, facing disproportionate air quality burdens. What legislation would you author or co-sponsor to address environmental justice in working class urban areas of the district? Got you.
Oh yeah, what was the question? Can you repeat, please?
Sure.
Let's make sure I get it right. That's my job.
Oak Park and many other neighborhoods in our region sit near industrial corridors and have bad air quality. What legislation would you author or co-sponsor to address environmental justice in working class urban areas of the district?
I studied science. I sat in classes where our professors talked about climate change. that climate change is real, it's a danger, and we need to take care of it. What I do understand is that the current administration has gotten rid of EPA, you all know it, has gotten rid of FEMA, and some other protections that needs to be done for climate change. I am the best person on this stage who can go to Congress and try to fight climate change in Congress, and also convince and reach across the aisle to my Republican colleagues and tell them about my experience and my education and how climate change is real and it's a present danger, because we need to take care of it. The quality of air today needs to be taken care of, because our generations, our kids and grandkids, if we don't take care of it right now, they're going to see the consequences of climate change. But also, we need to just reach an agreement with countries like China, because they're polluting the air in a really, really terrible way. Thank you.
I'm on the committee that has environment, energy, healthcare, all of these things. And I've been working on it for a long time. And we passed the IRA during the Biden administration. We provided a lot of clean air grants. Clean energy is good. And we have so much clean energy, and we've been making progress with that. You should look at SMUD and what it's done for their clean energy. And besides that, it's cheaper also. Electrification is what we have been doing. And of course, this administration decided they didn't want to do that anymore. But I know that what we've been doing in Congress is part of what we've always done here in Sacramento and in this state. We push ahead, and we're still pushing ahead. I'm not giving up at all, because even businesses have invested in clean energy. And we're now looking at how we get transmission and siting moving on here. So some of these areas are still there. I'm not giving up, because clean air is what we're doing right now. And that really does protect these industrial areas and its inner cities. Thank you.
I'm also familiar with this issue, specifically coming from San Joaquin County, right? San Joaquin County has one of the worst air quality in the state. And a lot of that, this is a two-parter, a lot of that primarily is because we sit right along the corridor, right? Now this question is specifically about Oak Park and Sacramento neighborhoods, and this issue is similar, right? Transit is important because a lot of these emissions do come from the incredible amount of people that do have to commute from jobs, education, their livelihoods. I do think that there's legislation in Congress right now, specifically about permitting closer housing to transit in order to reduce the emissions, that would go to reduce those emissions from increasing amount of transit. And I also do support clean energy in terms of the forward-looking Department of Energy effort to deploy small modular reactors, nuclear power. I am pro-nuclear power. I do believe that we shouldn't abandon the fruits of the future because there are solutions that we can pursue in order to increase our clean energy at an efficient and effective way. Thank you.
I will support any legislation or any bill now that is going to help push for cleaner air quality in this, especially in CD7 and in this industrial corridors. The benefits of clean air, I mean, is just a whole lot. Long-term health benefits. So that's something that has to be championed, advocated for, and supported. In addition to that, it has to be enforced because some of the companies and industries might actually want to maybe cut corners. But in addition to just the bills, we have to make sure that the laws are enforced for the benefit of the families that live closer to these companies and industries.
As someone who lives in South Sacramento, I'm not a stranger to environmental injustice that happens in our corridors or our urban areas. My home, my communities, our disenfranchised community and low-income neighborhoods often face more extreme heat, polluted air, high utility bills, and not enough green spaces because there's been an underinvestment. And I've seen firsthand how climate disaster has really rippled through our working families. I think it's really important that we make polluters pay, that we make corporations pay for, for us to be able to actually fund a Green New Deal, to make sure that we transition our economy to clean energy that actually creates good paying union jobs, green energy jobs. And so that's what I would do as a Congresswoman.
This question hits home for me because I think I'm the only one on stage that is actually subject to the environmental laws of the state. I think that California has some good environmental laws on the books. If elected to office, I would pull those laws up to the federal level. And I will say, if you want to have businesses care, if you want to have businesses that aren't polluting in your towns and cities, we should support small and medium business. Because when you just have large corporations that are running these industrial plants, right? I have a small manufacturing company. I live where I work. And so I make sure that when we go out and perform our work, we're not polluting the environment. We're not putting stuff out into the air. And not only, it's not like, hey, let's rely on trustworthy business owners, but also the state of California has put in strong regulations where I have to do daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly reporting. And so the laws that we have on the books are great, but I think supporting small business that actually truly cares about the communities that they serve and are in is the right path here.
Doris Matsui. Many feel democracy is under attack. Reforms have not reduced money in politics, but rather increased the influence of big money. And voters are not necessarily happy with the top two in California. What reforms would you support to increase fair and broader representation of all voters?
Well, I also don't like the top two. But, I really feel that I don't like the big money in politics. I don't like Citizens United. I don't like what that caused. And I believe that what we've done here, especially in California, with Prop 50, means that we really have an opportunity to change this, because we can elect more people to Congress who understand how important it is to participate. I feel right now that this is an important time to get behind something like this, where we really know that there is money in politics we don't like at all. But I don't intend to put my hands behind my back and give up right now. I am funding I have funded many Democrats, good Democrats, who are fighting Trump Republicans. And I will make sure that they have the money to do that.
Again, touching on this issue, I think faith in the institutions of democracy have declined because they're not responsive, right? That's a consistent issue on either side of the aisle, that the institutions are not responsive and that they need to be responsive to the needs of the community. I'm part of a new community that was redistricted into this new district, District 7, right? We need a representative that is going to be able to actually be responsive to the issues of the communities, not just in Sacramento, but also in San Joaquin and also in El Dorado, because we do share a common destiny, right? And we all want what is the best. We may disagree on how to get there, but ultimately, being responsive is an antidote, in part at least, to preserving faith in institutions of democracy. If we don't have responsiveness from our leaders, from our representatives, we simply cannot trust that those decisions will be made on behalf of us. Thank you.
So this question goes to the central, one of the central issues in this election, which is age and the need for change. There shouldn't be too much money in politics, because when that happens, then the politicians' consciences are bought and paid for. My opponent in the Democratic side has been in politics for over 2 decades. And in her own words, she has funded a lot of politicians. Change is needed. I know that I am possibly the least funded candidate here, and it's a good thing, because you know, as a CD7 constituent, that when I'm there as a congressman, I will be your conscience, because I'm not bought or paid for.
So several things. One, we need to overturn Citizens United. There is so much dark money, so much corporate money that has bought so many seats in Congress. I have vowed not to take any corporate PAC money. My opponent has. And I think it's really important that you all follow the money. That is important because so many corporations have bought these seats. Something I will also share with all of you is that I think it's important that we don't take corporate PAC money, because when you have a corporate credit card that funds your campaign, you still got debt to pay. You absolutely still got debt to pay. And you don't move with a sense of urgency. You won't move in a sense of urgency for Medicare for all. You won't move with the sense of urgency to close these detention centers because you actually profit from your stocks and your asset. We need elected officials that do not take corporate PAC money at the national level. So many politicians are brought. That's the reason why people have tuned out completely to politics. Established Democrats and Republicans that are corporate bought created the conditions for what we have today. That's the reason why Trump won. He ran on an affordability agenda. He said, I'm gonna make your lives better. Obviously, it's gotten worse, but it's because Democrats are so out of touch from working families. We gotta get corporate money out of politics. We gotta get dark money out of politics, and that's what needs to happen.
Increasing government accountability. You guys don't need us to stand up here and tell you what to do there. We all run our daily lives and know exactly what's going on. We have politicians that take money from sources that they shouldn't. What we need to have is people-funded campaigns. But the wonderful thing about democracy is that democracy solves for this issue. But we need an educated electorate, and we need more forums like this one where the different candidates can get up and present themselves and offer different solutions. When we stick with the same folks over and over again and then expect different results, I don't know what to tell you.
Your turn.
All right. Yes, I do want Citizens United overturned. Definitely. It's the most important thing we need to do. My opponent is sitting on $785,000 in her bank account, funding her campaign, running TV ads in this district to try to get your votes. Showing up when she needs your votes. Other than that, she doesn't give a shit about you. Let's be honest about it. 2% of that $785,000 only comes from small dollar donors. She sits in Energy and Commerce Committee, the same committee that decides how much your water bill should be, how much your electric bill should be, how much you should be paying for diabetes drugs or cancer medication. It's like a tit for tat, don't you think? The companies that gives my opponent money, the same companies or the companies that she's regulating when she's sitting in that committee. It's a bribery. In the Middle East, if you do that, you go to prison. But in this country, they call it politics. I find that offensive. I feel offended. Those posters you see at the door, I made them. I bought $1 in the dollar store, and then I taped the poster on it. They cost less than $1.50 each. That's what politics should look like. That's how politics should be in the United States. Thank you.
Okay, I actually didn't hear any new reform ideas, but Zachariah.
I actually had some reform ideas.
You can talk to the group after this. All of you can. Okay, this is for Zachariah. Congress has passed major infrastructure investments in recent years. What's your approach to ensuring those funds create tangible improvements in local transportation and infrastructure in our region? You know what? I'm going to skip that question because
excited.
Do you have a good answer? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. I read it.
So, as you can see, I'm very excited to answer this question. I really think, in terms of infrastructure spending, right, one of the biggest issues with infrastructure projects, both in the previous administration and this administration, has been permitting. There's a lot of, especially in California, there's a lot of duplicative processes, both on the state regulatory process and the federal regulatory process. And I think that, frankly, this administration has done a good job in terms of reducing the amount of duplicated processes for permitting to get infrastructure projects on the timeline to be built. right? That includes for water. That includes for infrastructure like transportation. That includes for building for businesses and for homes as well. Now, obviously, the federal government doesn't control the permitting process. There's obviously the municipalities or maybe your county or the state in recent times as well. But for Congress specifically, there is leverage that is had over improving the permitting process for these projects to be built sooner rather than later. America used to be able to build things. We used to be able to do that. And even in California was the progress state for building things. So I think we can return to that if you elect me. Thank you.
Any policy that's devoted to improving infrastructures that will help transportation for the citizenry should be highly encouraged, just like this one. So transportation is very necessary, and if there are places where we would need funding to maybe build like train stations and all of that, we have to do that. And if congressmen and women should be able to fund such projects, because it not only helps the citizenry in their transportation needs, but also helps create jobs. It's very important for the economy. So I will support any infrastructural bill that will help improve transportation in CD7 and in California as a whole.
Most investment in infrastructure actually has gone to benefit corporate developers. And what we actually need in this moment is investment in green jobs and green infrastructure. That is supporting transit-oriented projects, right? Where we're not expanding freeways and highways, but investing in our communities and making sure that people are not reliable on their vehicles. That's the type of infrastructure we need. So we need to be able to support green infrastructure with good paying union jobs.
I'm a Democrat at heart, but one of the main reasons I hopped in this race is because I always agree with the heart of where Democrats are, but they're rarely at the federal level been effective at executing on the vision in a timeline that matters to our people. And so you can look at things like the infrastructure bill or even the rural internet bill that my opponent here has touted. Democrats put through so much process, so much other things. We go out and say, we want to build a microchip factory, but then we throw 100 other qualifiers onto the bill about building a microchip factory. And what we end up with is a microchip factory in like 20 or 30 years. What we need to do is have politicians with clear priorities and focus that execute laws that actually show up in our real worlds today.
So as someone, I've lived in 8 countries. One of them was France. And I lived in Paris. I could take a train and get from one city in France, from Paris to Lyon in a matter of a couple hours. And it deeply offends me that when I went to school in the University of Montana, I couldn't take a train to come from Montana to California to see my family. It deeply offends me. We live in the richest country on the planet Earth, but we don't have good transportation system. A kid has to book a ticket for $500 to go see his family for Thanksgiving, and that's deeply offensive. I think building transit system and funding through Congress is the most important thing. And not only it's the most important thing, and we should be doing it, it also impacts climate change in a very good way. It impacts climate change in a very good way. It reduces carbon emission. It's really good for climate change. And it makes us less depressed. Let's be honest about it. We don't have good transportation system. I want to go to San Francisco, and it takes me like 2-3 hours to go to San Francisco. I want to be able to take a fast train and go from here to San Francisco in a matter of 30 minutes. And it's a shame that we're funding foreign wars, but we don't have money for our own transportation and transit system here in this country.
Infrastructure is probably been something that I've always been involved in, starting with flood protection with Folsom Dam and building the spillway and really making sure that the levees are really strongly engineered along the rivers, and also making sure that we look ahead for different types of what we do as infrastructure. Infrastructure is really very important. You have to work with, especially the federal government, to make sure you're all working together and make sure the systems are in place. Transit is something that I've been working with for a long time, too. You know, this thing started a long time ago. Transit is so important because it does help the air quality, but it also makes people understand that you can live closer, or you can live in a way that you are not disturbing people with cars and things like that. I believe that infrastructure can really develop in a way that it really does help a community. And that's what we should be doing today. And we're getting there. But you know what? It takes a lot of money, and it takes cooperation from in this case, the administration, who's been cutting things. So that's why we have to take the House of Representatives back, get the Democrats in power once again, because we know how to do it. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go just a little bit over. Okay, that's why I wanted to skip that question, but I'm so glad I did not skip that question. That was an important one. So as fast as you can with these answers, and we'll begin with Ralph. And this is our last question before closing remarks. And it's an important one too, as many of the questions that we received. Anti-displacement and economic vitality are not opposites. Would you support federal funding mechanisms such as community benefit agreements, local hiring mandates, etc., that allow new business to thrive alongside legacy residents and long-standing businesses?
I would generally not support anything that says mandates. So I wouldn't support it. It's a bit nuanced, the question, but I would support any policy that gives businesses, even new businesses, gives them equal opportunity to be able to compete with longer established businesses. So it all depends on the situation. Specifically in CD7, if that kind of a situation occurs, it will be something that as a congressman I will look into to actually ensure that young startup businesses are still given as much grace and opportunity as the long-standing businesses.
I absolutely support a community benefits agreement for every single development because we know that when corporations go in, they make a huge profit and they actually displace families and communities, and it makes it harder for the residents in those neighborhoods to actually stay. That's the reason why we need safeguard and protection. Just look at my record as a councilwoman. Any project that comes in, I am absolutely critical in making sure that the communities, the residents that live there does not get displaced. I think about Oak Park. We have Aggie Squares coming. We have Aggie Square that's there now. We have to make sure that there was a community benefits agreement. It wasn't council or mayor that did it. It was community who fought for it. So any development that comes into the city, comes into the region, absolutely needs to have a community benefits agreement because we got to make sure that we do not displace folks.
Absolutely, I support community benefits agreement. I do want to say, since this is our last question, we didn't get to talk about housing. I think housing is vitally important for everyone in this room. Housing is the thing that allows us to live near our work, allows us to access economic development, and it's something that we are struggling with. It's a crisis in this country. When I was born in the 90s, the average age of a first-time homebuyer was 28 years old. Any guesses from the room what the age of a first-time homebuyer is today? All right, it's 42 as it sits today, or at least I'm the guy with the mic, so I get to say that today. But every decade, it goes in the wrong direction, and we have our leaders to blame, because this is not a new issue. It's just an issue that's reached a crisis at this point. And what we need is leadership that's going to address this, because we have the elected representative who every decade has seen this data move in the wrong direction. And talk about economic development, economic opportunity. Housing is so key to everyone in this district.
Yeah, as a tech entrepreneur who is building a startup company that is social political platform that holds politicians accountable, that's right. I want to build a platform that holds politicians accountable so you don't just vote when it's election time, you also can voice your opinion when it's all the time, every single week, every single day. It's so damn hard to get SBA loans. It's so damn hard to get any loan to build a startup company, to build a business. So yeah, I do support any effort that helps us build businesses. When you walk around in any other country, when you walk around in Mexico City, in Paris, other places, there are cafes, a lot of businesses, but we don't have it here. Why? Because the government is not supporting a lot of people to become entrepreneurs. People immigrate to this country to become prosperous, to become wealthy, to go from surviving to thriving. People come here from Mexico, Colombia, Venezuela, Afghanistan, India. They want to come here to become wealthy. And if we don't provide them with those conditions, how are they going to thrive? If we help them, they can build businesses. It helps the community. You build a cafe, you build a restaurant, you build a business, you build a startup company. It helps everybody. I'm all for it. Thank you.
I'll make this short. I support community benefit agreements.
I'm glad that housing was brought up because that is an incredibly issue. My opponent mentioned that he's born in the 90s. I was born in 2001, so I was 7 years old when the recession began. You know, I should have been buying a cheap house before then. No, but seriously, I do think that the important thing to do, the federal government cannot mandate certain development patterns. It can't do that, and I don't think it should do that. I think the property is important, and your right to do with what you want to do with it, is just as important. However, Congress can set incentives for cities to improve affordability. And what causes displacement is unaffordability of housing, of your business space, of your livelihood. And the best place to keep against displacement is to make it affordable for you to stay in the neighborhood, in the community where you live. And I think that's incredibly important and something that should be incentivized by congressional funding, through grants, et cetera, especially considering legislation that is being pushed through Congress right now, to do that. And I think that's important and incredibly, I am in support of. Thank you.
I know, but your closing remarks. It's now time for closing remarks, and these candidates have 1 minute.
Awesome. So I'm Enayat Nazhat. I'm running for Congress in District 7, California. I want to represent every single one of you, from Sacramento to Lodi to Placerville to Elk Grove. And I don't just want to represent and sell you hashtags. I don't want to sell you hopes and fake promises. I want to represent the working families. I want to represent the Gen Z. I want to represent the singles because they have been forgotten for a very long time when it comes to taxation and representation. And I think it's time that we just put our heads together. And since I went to Congress, who brings fresh energy, who brings experience, I'm the only candidate on this stage who is fluent in 4 languages. I can talk to Indian community, I can talk to Hispanic community, I can talk to Pakistani community, I can talk to Arab community, I can talk to Jewish community. And I think I'm the best person for this job. Give me a chance, and if I don't do a good job, fire me in 2 years. I think that's what you can do. I think that's what the Founding Fathers intended for us to do in this country. That's why they allowed us to have terms for 2 years. And after that, you can fire your representative. So if you're not happy, just fire your current representative. Thank you.
Thank you. You heard a lot this evening. And this race is really not just about me. It's about all of you. Because you really think about what we really want in this country. You know, we have an opportunity now. You think about the fact that we can probably work forward now to really make sure that we have a balance of power. Because you have to think about what do you want this country to be? Do you want it to be, you know, Trump's exclusionary policy where we pit people against people? Or a democracy, a country like I want, where we work together? And we work together when we really understand that this job is serious. You have to understand how to move legislation. You have to know how to pass it. You have to know how to execute it. And you have to also know how to bring it down to the local level. This is what this is all about. I stand and fight for you all the time. I deliver for you. I have a list of accomplishments. I'm not going to throw it on you right now. But these are things that never get finished. So here I am. I'm ready. You know, I have the energy. I fight for you, and I deliver.
It shouldn't be strange for me to say this, but as a Republican, I believe in what California can be. And that includes District 7. I think that we have the opportunity to be better than what we are now. More technology. I mean, there's just so much going on right now that we can look forward to that I think that my candidacy represents. My name is Zachariah Wooden, right? But I, in terms of local issues, right, I serve as the San Joaquin or Woodbridge Municipal Advisory Council. I know local issues. I'm able to interface with the community about what local issues are. So I'm not from Sacramento, but I am aiming to represent not just Sacramento, but San Joaquin and El Dorado as well, because we may have been redistricted by accident or intentional, right? But we now share a common destiny, right? The issues that we want our representative to represent us on should unite us all. And we do have a lot of in common, more in common than I think we have apart. And I think that my candidacy can provide that hope for all of us together, regardless of which community we come from, because all of our communities can benefit as a whole. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Ralph Nwobi, and I am one of the Republican candidates running for in this election today. And I ask for your support, both Democrats, Republicans, everybody, because this is a grassroots movement. This is a revolution of common sense. CD7 has a dire need to be brought back to common sense values. That is what I will propagate in Congress to ensure that we bring back family values right back to Congressional District 7 and even all around California. We need that. I can also just point out that I am perhaps the only candidate on this stage today that can actually give the correct or a correct definition of gender. This is because I'm honest and I apply common sense. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. I want to thank the Neighborhood Association for putting on this forum. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for facilitating. Look, this race is more than just about a congressional seat. It is about the future of this country. Do we want business as usual, or do we want a new generation of leaders and a new direction for this country? As a council member, I am no stranger to taking on the establishment and delivering for working families and working people. I have a track record, 2 decades of community organizing, policy experience, securing millions for our youth impacted by poverty, violence, and trauma, and I'm asking for your vote and your support. That's the reason why I am so proud to be endorsed by our National Nurses United that's leading the fight for healthcare for all. I am proud to be endorsed by our young people, college Democrats of Sac State and UC Davis, and our high school student, and so many progressive organizations. I am the candidate that is not taking any corporate PAC money because I respond to you, and I'm asking for your vote and your support. I don't take running against an incumbent lightly because I know that we are never going to be able to outspend her, but what we have is people power that can beat money. And so I'm asking you to join us, tap in, go to myforus.com, become a volunteer, and let's go win this. There is another option on the ballot for this region, and we are ready for change.
Please, at the end.
This election is about more than just the people up on stage. What we have in front of us is a decision to make. Do we want to look in the rearview mirror at the past, the same thing over and over again, or do we want to look to bold new leadership into the future? I have a great frustration when Matsui says this race is not about me. The second she entered into the race, she made it a question of, do we want to stick with old or go with new? That's bad for our country, and it's bad for our party, and it's bad for all of you sitting here. A better method would be to have fresh new candidates up on stage, pitching new ideas for the future, arguing about the future of our country. At the end of the day, I believe the Democratic Party and our country needs to become the party that builds. We need to build a healthcare system that takes care of all of us. We need to build an economy that works for the middle class and not just the wealthy. And we need to build a shit ton of housing. I am a builder at heart. I've built companies from scratch, and I want to go to work for you. My name is Robbie Morin, and I hope to earn your support.
Okay, now will you? Yeah, I need the mic. Oh, now, thank you. Now, will you please just give a huge round of applause to your favorite candidate? I'm not done. These candidates really deserve that because we really want to thank you for running for office and meeting with this community tonight. We want to thank all the neighborhood associations that participated, and especially Elmhurst and Maggie Coulter and her team because they did a lot of work to put this on. Also want to thank Access Sacramento for bringing this event to more people. That's really great. And you, well, we want to thank you and anybody that submitted questions. I'm sorry we can't answer them all, ask them all. But we do hope that you are now a more informed voter And all of our upcoming candidate forums will be on our Sacramento County League website. And also, the ballots go out in 4 weeks. Yeah, everything's moving very fast. So if you are not registered or you need to re-register, you can do it online or pick up a form from a league member back there. I'll say goodnight and turn it over to Maggie Coulter.
I also want to echo thanks to the candidates and to the League and Access Sacramento, and also everybody in this audience that volunteers. How many people volunteer here? Put your hands up. Let's give our volunteers a big hand. So Access Sacramento is going to work really hard to get this on the air, hopefully by 5 o'clock this Sunday. It is also recorded on the YouTube channel. As people are leaving, it did cost us money to put the forum on, about $400. Please put some money in these buckets and help us, because we're doing another forum next week here in this room with the County Supervisors District 1. If you didn't get a chance to ask your question, I think our folks here will stick around for a bit so you can still ask them, talk to them individually. And again, a big hand to the candidates and everybody who helped put this forum on. Thank you.